Happy holidays, everybody, and welcome to Bengals Breakdown here on Bengals.com. I'm Dan Hoard. He's Bengals.com editor Geoff Hobson. This week, it's the final road game of the regular season as the Bengals head to Miami to take on the Dolphins. And it's an opportunity for you to see one of your all-time favorite former Bengals, 37-year-old quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick, now starting for his 8th different NFL team. That is a record for quarterbacks.
It's great. We're going to be covering a game where the quarterback is older than the head coach.
For the second consecutive
week. We already did that, right? Yeah, you gotta love Fitzy. He's I think this is the 4th different time we've played him when he's in a different uniform. He was here, of course, and I talked to him a couple weeks ago actually at the halfway point. We talked about how that 0-8 Bengals team actually Fitzy let him do a 4-3-1 finish in 2008 and kind of set the table for 2009. Pretty important figure in Bengals history, even though he only started I think it was those 8 games. Went on to he went on to riches, and was talking to the guys in the locker room here, and they get a lot of respect for him. Sean Williams was saying, he likes him. He's that kind of guy that you just like, you're drawn to. That's the way he was here. He'll sling it to you. I think you were asking Carlos Dunlap about him yesterday. He's a gunslinger.
Yep.
And he'll throw it to you as much, but he could also throw for 4 bills, as we found out. He almost brought the Buccaneers back in this building last year after halftime. Damn near beat him at the end. But so they'll it's always interesting. 13th time the Bengals have played one of their own starting quarterbacks, beaten him 4 times, beaten Fitzy twice. They'll be looking to do it a 3rd time.
A Harvard grad who has done well for himself. Many grads from that school do, but he's made almost $70 million in the NFL. The Bengals have something very tangible to play for this week. The opportunity for Joe Mixon to get to 1,000 yards this season. Midway through the year, that looked like it was a sheer impossibility.
There ought to be an asterisk with his 1,000-yard season because, remember, when he stepped off the plane in London for the 8th game of the year, he had 254 yards. He was an afterthought. And he's gone from doing that to doing what he did last year at this time, carrying them on their back. I would say, you'd have to say he's their most valuable player. Again, I mean, he would become the first Bengal running back to have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons since Cedric Benson, who went 3 in a row from 2009 to 11. I kind of keep charting his carries. I'm a big one for that.
Really?
Yeah, I like to get my running backs about 300 carries. Kind of the old
a game.
Yeah. 3 that's not going to happen in this era, of course. But it looks like Joe's going to have more carries this year than he had last year, which was that was almost impossible. You got to look how these guys did. They ran the ball well against a very good New England defense. I mean. Joe's at 4 yards per carry now, and it's to me it's one of the great stories that's going to be lost because he's going to have a great number. He'll have a pretty good number at the end of this year, but they won't know how hard he had to get there, and they won't appreciate what Jim Turner did. And Jim Turner got a lot of heat when he came here, the offensive line coach. He's done a hell of a job ripping up that unit and using what he had. And right now he has since the halfway point of the season, only Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry have more yards than Joe Mixon. That's a testament to both Turner and Mixon, and for Zach Taylor realizing they had to get something done.
Joe is 75 yards away from 1,000 going into the Miami game. If he averages as many yards in the final 2 games as he did in the last 2 games, he averaged 141, he would actually have more rushing yards than he had last year when he led the AFC.
It's amazing considering where he was.
Earlier this week, good news for Geno Atkins. He was named to his 8th Pro Bowl. That is a record for a Bengals defensive player, and it comes just before he heads home to the Miami area.
Yeah, only Anthony Munoz has more Pro Bowls, and of course, 8 Pro Bowls is about as many words as we've heard Geno utter in about the last 5 years. He doesn't talk to the media, but that's okay. His teammates are talking for him. I know there's been some criticism there that he just got that 8th Pro on reputation, but I think these guys sincerely believe that he does things that you don't see out there, even though he's got only 4.5 sacks. This defense has been good. We talk about what Mixon's done in the last half of the year. You look what Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator, has done in the last 6 weeks or so. They also probably have to have an asterisk with the points that were scored against New England. I mean, the scoreboard said 34 points, but with 5 turnovers, they're lucky it wasn't 50,
including a pick 6.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the defense has played well. I mean, they've been they're in the top 10 when it comes to defending the run and the score. Didn't defend the run great against New England, but they've been very solid, and they'll have to talking to these guys. You get Geno is still struggling behind Carlos Dunlap for the sack title.
Franchise sack record.
Yeah, they get Carlos is 4.5 sacks away, and I think Geno is now like 3 or 4 behind him. So it's kind of fun to watch, and that will be another thing that we'll talk about in the offseason. Will both these guys be together next year to see, because they'll probably both next year they would break the record of Eddie Edwards. I believe it's 83.5. So Carlos kind of goes home too. It's the home of Carlos's restaurant.
That's right.
So I think that they'll try to dine on Fitzy. We'll see what happens.
Carlos's restaurant specializes in brunch. So if you happen to be making the trip to Miami for the game, Sunday brunch before kickoff
and he also
at Hard Rock Stadium.
And if you wear a Bengals, some kind of paraphernalia, 15% off.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like it might be a plan.
According to Carlos,
Hoard and
I didn't say that. Yeah, I that's according to Carlos. I didn't make that up.
The Bengals defense giving up an average of 308 yards over the last 4 games. If that were the case all season, they'd be 6th best in the NFL. We'll see if they can keep it up this week against Fitzy and the Dolphins. And let's see if the Bengals offense can put some points on the board against the team that's dead last in points allowed, 31 per game. That's going to do it for this episode of Bengals Breakdown. For Geoff Hobson and our photographer Marissa Contepelli, I'm Dan Hoard. Thanks for checking it out here on Bengals.com.